of Love 101 FM.
Well, well, well. Well. Good morning and welcome to The Rock. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Blair, and this is your show. So many calls this week from so many people just about the topics that we've been bringing forward. And of course, we go to another big one today. This is the only live talk show of its kind in on radio in Jamaica. And on The Rock, we discuss all sides of a topical issue that seems to have the church, its congregants, and society as a whole thinking about the truths found in the Bible, causing believers and unbelievers to consider and or reconsider the things they have heard, studied, believed, or read, causing churches to open or restart discussions on issues very often glossed over. Yes, these are the issues that are important to you, and that's why we have The Rock. Well, today on The Rock, quite a bit coming your way, quite a bit to talk about. We're talking about our Father. We want to explore what the Bible says about the Father in heaven and the Father in earth without bashing or bragging. We are going to talk about fatherhood. Yes, one of those things that some people are giving up. Some people are giving up that ability to become a father by dressing like a woman, by changing their organs, by doing some stuff. But guess what? We're going to talk about fatherhood. Yes, that's on The Rock today. What does the Bible say? But before all of that, I just want to go, as I always do, into looking at what's taking place around the world, what's taking place in Steve's mind. This morning, and the open paper got a very bit upset, a little bit upset. Police have arrested a man who disarmed a security guard, then used the weapon to shoot him during a brawl after being asked to sanitize outside a supermarket in Hanover. That just, even though it happened last year, the accused 38-year-old got arrested, and for some reason, it just irks me silly. Why? Because once again, I'm seeing that we don't value life. Somebody's trying to help you to save your life. Sanitize, save somebody else's life, and then you're going to disarm him and shoot him. I've been really thinking about crime in Jamaica. How do we get our people, our young men and our young women, to think about life once again? How do we get them to think about the fact that life is valuable? We're killing people over $1,000 or $5,000, or somebody saying an F word, or somebody running into your car, or somebody just doing something silly, and all of a sudden life has no value. Oh boy, somehow, this program, this station is going to fight for life. And that fight for life, whether it's the abortion issue or the respect for life, is going to be a big one here on this program. Somehow, I love my life, and I'm not going to give it away silly. And somehow, I got up this morning, I went for a walk. And as I was walking, I said, Lord, suppose somebody just walked up to the gate and shot me. And I'm thinking, I haven't done anything to anybody, but it just takes somebody going silly who does not respect life. And then I saw this story. I'm saying, Jamaica, let's find a love for the breath of God in our body. Let's find a reason to get up in the mornings. Take that deep breath and say, thank you, Lord. And not just thank God for your breath, but thank God that somebody else is alive today. Somebody who is in a hospital who's made another day. Somebody who's been through hell and back and has found another day. Wow, life. The incident took place. The passerby, the security guard got shot. Could have been very serious. Somehow, it just seems to me that we don't respect life. Talking about life, I'm a former prison, three prisons abroad, have a passion for dealing with people in prison. I know for sure that not everybody in prison is guilty. I can tell you that. I remember getting a young man freed in Cayman who was in prison for 6 years for rape. And when I met the young lady who accused him of rape, she told me he did not pay me the $25 for the experience. So I called the police and called rape. Now, here's my thing. I've been saying on this show, I want to raise 1,000 beds. I want to go to the commissioner and make sure the police stations, the lockups, get get some beds so that the people who get arrested can have something to sleep on. A police officer told me yesterday, no way, Pastor Blair, that's going to happen. But I said, what's happening? He says, well, they come in and they sleep on the floor. I said, would you like to get arrested, falsely accused, and put inside a cell with rats and scorpions and 40 legs and to sleep on the floor? Of course, his answer was no. Talking about police, a police woman in Monday's paper, we see she's accused of forging divorce documents and she's granted bail for $500,000. The observer says the detective sergeant who had been in custody for 1 year and 8 months was denied bail on previous occasions, wept as the offer of bail was made. Oh, come on, folks. I'm going to say this, and I really, really, really want to say, okay, officer, you did wrong. And my classmate, Peter Champagny, was her lawyer and got her this plea. But I'm going to say this. We should not have to go for the top lawyers to get a woman out of lockup or after a year and a half and placed on bail just because she falsely signed something. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. But my gosh, our prisons and our lockups are so full. There's no care. There's barely any good food. Barely any good treatment. And we are locking them up for a year and a half for uttering a forged document. It's like locking up a man for stealing akis off the governor general's tree. And of course, I don't like that. And I love my aki. I curry my aki and I cook it with shrimp and I eat it. But folks, we've got to make better use of incarcerating people. We've got to make better use of locking people away. It just does not make sense. How do we? I don't even know if she's a mother. What does the story say? Is she a mother? I don't know. Oh, but a year and a half in lockup without trial to be placed on bail just does not make sense. Oh, I don't know. Something is wrong, and something needs to be done. Anyway, next story. There's a story in the Gleaner today. Dog bite test. Prosecution looms after a 61-year-old mauled by pit bulls. I've had two pit bulls that I've taken care of at my father's house. I love my dogs. I've always had the pleasure of dealing with dogs. This morning, when my wife would not get out of bed to walk with me, my dog Rover came and ran up the hill with me several times. Boy, that was a challenge. I know Nadine's gonna want to come with me one of these mornings. But I tell you what, I can't for the life of me see why pit bulls have any freedom, because even though I've owned them, I don't really trust them. Uh, and I know a lot of I see boys walking on the streets with these pit bulls pulling them and people around them. Somehow, at some point in time, somebody is going to get bitten up and die, and then we're going to try to take action. We should not wait until more serious things take place before action is taken. So this 61-year-old woman that got bitten up, these situations can be avoided. And I'm just saying, Jamaica, why are we such a reactionary country? Why is it we keep waiting until something happens? When I came back here 12 years ago, I wrote the Gleaner about transportation in Jamaica. I wrote and I said, children are going to die in buses going to school. I wrote and I said, people are going to get seriously damaged on the highways with the way the buses are driving and are taking care of themselves. I wrote about the taxis going down the road and making a third lane. And to this day, we're still seeing the evidence that these things are taking place. And of course, we did not make the change and people have died. And more people are going to die unless we make the change. 2 or 3 more minutes of what's on my mind. The Gleaner has a story about Jamaicans in the diaspora giving back to their homeland. I've got to make a story about this one because as a person who's been a part of the diaspora, And as a person who deals with so many people who want to give back to Jamaica, I've got to say that this is one of the the really terrible, terrible situations. The government has to take this in hand. I have a friend in Orlando who brings bags and things back to Jamaica, searching for churches or schools because most places can't take them in, but they're taking them to Jamaica to give them to children. Now, I know this is Jamaica. We have a lot of scammers. We're going to tell the government we're carrying them in to give them away, and we bring them in and sell them. But we've got to find a way, um, government, to make sure that we can assist these diaspora members to help Jamaica. I have so many friends who try to bring things in, and because I like to go by the book, I'll not try to do things with them or for them unless they're really working with me. But then at the same time, they have such a hard time as the diaspora trying to help Jamaica. Let's try to work harder to make it a lot easier for them so that they can help. Finally, finally, uh, COVID 19. COVID 19 to be, but still taking lives, still affecting people and affecting families. Well, I'm looking at the Jam COVID website. It says 960 deaths. Um, Either this is correct or, well, this is wrong. This is updated hmm, uh, 11 days ago, sadly. So, from what I've heard, we've hit 1,000. So something is wrong, and just want to say to Jamaica, yes, we have 1,000 COVID-19 deaths, and we do have 1,000 plus murders every year. But we want to make sure as much as we can that we take the next few hours thinking about our hands, our mouth, our eyes, um, using that mask and doing the right things. That's all I want to encourage you today. Not beating, not bashing, not throwing any words, just saying let's work together to make Jamaica a better place. I'm Steve Blair. That's my rant and rave. And when we come back after the break, our Father, the topic today, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Or what about our Father on earth? Whether he's absent or not, whether he's good or bad. When the name or word Father comes up, what's your first reaction? For me, it's a great one, a great Father God and a great Father Herro. Post all your comments on this topic on our Facebook Live, The Rock Broadcast, or send us a WhatsApp message to 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. And of course, leave us a WhatsApp message or a voice note. Voice notes should be no more than 30 to 40 seconds. Turn your radio down. Let's not hear some conversation in the background. And let us hear your opinion on fathers across Jamaica. Boy, oh boy. For me, I've seen fathers riding children to school on bicycles. I've seen fathers doing more than they used to do in the 80s and 90s. We've come a long way, and we've still got further to go. I'm Steve Blair. We'll be right back here on your show, The Rock.
Thank you, Steve. And of course, I would do the walk with you. All right. Thank you so much.
In the Sagicor bonus savings, we're all in. Sagicor Bank bonus savings account. The pooled savings account from Sagicor Bank. We're all in. Bonus savings account pays you monthly interest, plus a bonus each month to top up your savings. In the Sagicor bonus savings, the bigger the pool of savings, the bigger the bonus. Together, everyone earns more with Sagicor bonus savings. We're all in. We're all in with Sagicor Bank bonus savings account.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Morning, officer.
Morning, ma'am.
looking for a suspect in a current investigation and need to search the premises.
Then why you want to search my home, officer? Me and my family have a right to privacy, you know. And we have a right to protect our home from illegal search. Can I see the search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You can come do your search, but me have to watch you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Everybody have rights. Brought to you by the National Family Planning Board and the Office of the Public Defender.
I've got love in my heart and I'm feeling blessed.
This Testimony Tuesday, June 15th, it's on Live 1 to 5. John is Ronaldo Show, packed with good music and inspirational stories. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock at 2:15 inside the evidence. We hear from Tracy Anderson, widow at 37, who has been experiencing constant mind-blowing favors from God. Then at 3 p.m., we continue with part 2, Behind the Pulpit of singer-songwriter and pastor at the Center of Transformation Church in Florida, Bishop Robert McQueen. All this and more will come alive on the family station, Love 101.
Everybody wave, get something away.
You're tuned to Love 101. Yes, Campus Connection is coming up later on. You're tuned to Love 101 FM, the family station, and we now rejoin Pastor Herro Steve Blair for The Rock. Over to you.
Yes, yes. Welcome back to The Rock.
We want to hear from you.
I'm Steve Blair, your host, and of course, we have a big topic today. Today on The Rock, we're discussing the topic, Our Father. What's your take on this, and what does the Bible say about this topic, fatherhood? Wow, so much to talk about. And hopefully, maybe you could get some of the young men around your yard that really don't have anything to do to sit back and listen today to myself and our special guests as we talk about fathers, becoming a father. This sex issue in Jamaica is so big, and a lot of youngsters are out there becoming fathers and mothers. Post all your comments on this topic on our Facebook Live, The Rock broadcast, or send us a WhatsApp message, a voice note to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. Voice notes must be no more than 30 to 40 seconds, and turn the radio down as you send that message. Well, you can also prepare to call in later during the show as we want to hear from you. Talk about your exceptional. And you want to talk about what your father's done in your life, helped you with your identity, or you can talk about the fact that it affected you. Let others feel how painful it was, and maybe you can testify and say how you came and made a change in your life. So what does fatherhood look like to you? What does it feel to have or not to have your biological father in your life? What does it look like from God's perspective? And what's God's idea of who or what a father should be? As a man and a father who grew up without a father, what would your answers be? Well, Roland Gale is joining us, and he will give us a chat about that issue. That father who was there, wasn't there. And Roland, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, thank you, Sir Steve. I am well, giving God thanks. How are you?
I'm awesome, thank you. I'm excited. Today is the anniversary of my parents. And I'm celebrating Father's Day on this day, a day that my parents got together and started working and bringing me into the world.
Please give them our best regards, all right?
Certainly. So Roland, tell us your story and the importance of the father or father in your life.
All right. You started a little earlier on by saying that there are individuals who grow up without having a father in their lives. And technically, I'm one of those, because my recollection is from about the age of 2. I didn't have a father in the home. And when you're 2 years old, you don't really remember much before that. So I genuinely don't remember my father in the home at all. I did have a father. I knew him. We spent time with him. We used to go and spend weekends with him every now and again. and we would spend holidays with him as well. So from that perspective, technically, we didn't grow up with our father in the home, but he did play a role, particularly up to probably about age 9 or 10. And then after that, he left the island. And so we didn't have much interaction after that. But that's basically the background for me. He was a gentleman who I considered to be fun at times, but very stern at times. And that's my real recollection of him.
So he did his part in the early years, and those things stuck with you forever.
I can recall discipline. I can recall love. I can recall fun activity. What I don't recall is a consistent presence, providing or protecting or teaching. I don't recall that kind of stuff. And to me, that's critical when you talk about a father. A father is supposed to, among other things, teach, protect, provide. And I don't recall that in my life.
Okay. So there you are growing up, your father's gone away. How were you able to develop your identity and your values? I know you do say that he helped to shape discipline.
Yeah. I remember distinctly once he had instructed us not to leave the keys in the lock in the grill. And we were at his house. And I forgot the key in the lock in the grill. And it's only one time I ever do that, because when he came back and asked who left the key in the lock in the grill, and I said, "Oh, Daddy, I forgot." One conk in my forehead. I tell you, I see Star and Peony Wally and everything else. And I also saw that I ain't going to leave that key in the lock again. And there were disciplinary aspects to him where when he spoke, you realize he's serious, no ramping with him. And so you follow, you toe the line, you do what you know is required of you. And so that discipline part of it, in my opinion, was there. And if mommy decided to tell him something, then you know you're kind of dark. So there was a disciplinary part of it. But you asked the question, I think you said, how did I form my ideas of father? My ideas of father, I think, came from men at church. It came from fathers of friends at school. And I think it also came to a great extent from the media, from reading and from watching TV. This may sound funny when I say it, Steve, and I'm not trying to just ramble on, but it may sound funny to you that this gentleman, Cliff Huxtable, on TV, showed what a loving, caring father would look like. And
what show was that again?
The Cosby Show. I don't know if you remember the Cosby Show. I don't know if you remember the Andy Griffith Show. You remember those two shows?
I remember those two shows.
I don't know if you remember Lime Tree Lane. Those are shows that you would see a father figure or a male authority figure that demonstrated to me what I would like and what I didn't have.
And what you'd like to be.
And I suppose so. Because it's what I would like. I try to do that and make every effort to put that kind of influence in my own child's life.
Well, having that father, I know we always talk about how we love our mothers, but having that father figure, especially as a male person, totally impacts your life differently. Because I'm listening to you and I'm hearing you say, well, Dad left when I was rather young. However, that little impact of discipline changed my life or has stuck with me. And certainly you've seemingly wanted to be somebody from early. So you're grabbing from the Cosby Show, you're grabbing from the Andy Griffith Show and other things. But he impacted you even as a child.
Yeah, man, he definitely did. And I would see how he interacted with my siblings because I'm the youngest one. And so they would have a better recollection of him in the home. So as the youngest one, I would hear stories of Daddy did do this, or we're going to go by Daddy and he promised X and Y and Z. So my experience would be very different from theirs. They would have known him longer. They would have had interaction with him longer, and so that feeds to me as well. But when we think, for example, about the men at church, there were fathers at church who knew I didn't have a dad with me, and those fathers would kind of circle around, and they would say a little word here and a little word there. Nothing that would really turn you off, but it would give you the sense that, okay, here's a man who is not my dad, but he is giving guidance, and if I'm sensible, I'll try and listen. And the same thing with friends at school. I remember a very, very, very good friend of mine whose dad basically took me on, because I would go and spend weekends with them. I'd go on overnight, you have sleepovers when you're in prep school and stuff like that.
Lucky you.
Yeah. I mean, I give God thanks, because although there was that lack, there was a lot that was given in return.
That's
And
great.
so, yeah.
That's great. I think about the fact I never really had the possibilities of sleepover, and instead of playing sports, I had to go home after school. The levels of discipline were so strong that when I came back from college and saw my brothers on the phone talking to girls, I was like rather surprised, because all of a sudden they get rid of everything, because I'm the first child and I couldn't go on the phone and call anybody. But here my brothers calling their girls, their girlfriends and everything. And I'm like, wow. But the good thing, as we get ready to go to the break, I must mention my father has this habit of getting a siesta at about 3 o'clock in the days. I've noticed that from when I was a child. But I would come home from school and he would come home to rest, and he'd play table tennis, pool, or even cricket with us in the days. And I'd bring my friends over and he would play sports with them, something I've never forgotten. And when I received my award in Cayman as the Young Caymanian Leader of the Year, I stood up and I thanked God for my parents, especially my father, who, in looking at him, gave me the sight of what a man should be. Fatherhood, that's our discussion today. We've got to talk about that and more when we get back from the break. Just want to say thank you to all those on Facebook, all those on WhatsApp that are sending in your messages right away. And of course, I can't leave out my Facebook crew. They're responding to what I said earlier. Lisa says, yes, the police stations need beds, but if there's anyone who can give sheets to the emergency rooms at the Spanish Town Hospital, they need sheets. So much needs to be done across Jamaica. We're going to take them on right here on The Rock as we work together to make a better Jamaica. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the Love 1030 newscast.
Good morning, I'm Derval Graham with your mid-morning news update, written and produced in association with Jamaica's first My Jamaica Today, only 3 clicks away, and presented by Love 101 FM, the family station. The mid-morning news update is brought to you today by Jamaica Customs Agency, country above self.
The Jamaica Customs Agency continues to ensure the viability of Jamaica's economy and has instituted several trade facilitation measures for the export sector, including processing of export declarations upon submission, removing the need for doc receipts, rolling out the electronic export manifests for shipping lines, piloting the AEO Exporter Program for compliant exporters, spearheading the electronic single window for trade J-Swift project, and collaborating with other entities to implement the paperless exporter registration process and online payment services, as well as removing the need for licenses and permits from certain items. Exporters, we value your contribution. Let's keep the wheels of trade turning. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Now the news. Opposition calls on government to launch diplomatic initiative. The Opposition People's National Party's spokesman on health and wellness, Dr. Maurice Guy, is calling on the government to launch a diplomatic initiative. This to obtain from the U.S. a portion of the millions of COVID-19 vaccines reportedly set to expire shortly. In a statement late yesterday, Dr. Guy said international news reports of millions of vaccine doses approaching expiry dates was worrying, considering that Jamaica and other developing countries are faced with a lack of availability of the vaccine to satisfy their demands. He says a new diplomatic initiative is urgently needed involving the United States and other major developing countries, the World Health Organization, and the COVAX facility to divert these vaccines to developing countries for immediate use. He said the principle to be upheld is that there should be no wasting of this vital drug to fight the global pandemic, which continues to devastate societies worldwide. No fire was at Riverton. The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWA, is clearing the air and has noted that the smoke that was seen and affected motorists traveling along the Mandela Highway in St. Catherine yesterday was a result of a fire at a nearby cane field and not from the Riverton City garbage disposal site in St. Andrew. St. James pastor accused of rape given bail. The St. James pastor, who was charged with rape by detectives from the office of the Center for the Investigation of Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse, SISOCA, has been offered bail. Pastor Jason Rhodes was offered bail and a bond of $300,000 when he appeared in the St. James Parish Court yesterday. Mr. Rhodes is scheduled to reappear in St. James Parish Court on Monday, July 19. Allegations are that sometime in March, he assaulted a 15-year-old member of his congregation while she was at his home, which is located on the church premises. Meanwhile, it's understood that a group of about 5 of the pastor's supporters showed up outside the St. James Parish Court yesterday to give him their moral support. They also condemned the media for reporting the case. NWC addresses traffic woes. The National Water Commission, NWC, says it has implemented systems to address traffic delays along the Spanish Town Road in the corporate area. NWC says during the peak periods, inbound in the morning and outbound in the evenings, will maintain a minimum of 2 lanes to facilitate the heavier traffic flows. It says also that works will commence 9 a.m. and end 4 p.m. daily to facilitate the smooth flow of traffic during peak hours. Food for the Poor to build 38 houses. Food for the Poor, FFP, says it intends to construct 38 houses soon for people in need. The undertaking is part of activities to mark the charity's 38th anniversary in Jamaica, celebrated yesterday. According to FFP, the project will be funded through an initiative called Race for Hunger, which replaces its traditional 5K walk-run event. Race for Hunger is being held between June 1 and 30 in collaboration with their United States and Canada affiliate. Finally, on a sporting note, National Senior Men's Football Team head coach Theodore Whitmore says he's now aiming for the right blend for the squad. And those are the stories on the watch list in your mid-morning news update, written and produced in association with Jamaica's first digital media house, My Jamaica Today, only 3 clicks away, and presented by Love 101 FM, the family station. I'm Derval Graham, thanking you for listening. You have a safe and productive day.
The Jamaica Customs Agency continues to ensure the viability of Jamaica's economy and has instituted several trade facilitation measures for the export sector, including processing of export declarations upon submission, removing the need for dock receipts, rolling out the electronic export manifests for shipping lines, piloting the AEO Exporter Program for compliant exporters, spearheading the electronic single window for trade J-Swift project, and collaborating with other entities to implement the paperless exporter registration process and online payment services, as well as removing the need for licenses and permits from certain items. Exporters, we value your contribution. Let's keep the wheels of trade turning. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Every time you share a Coke, you can express what is hard for you to say. Open one and start now. Collect and share our bottles to ask for a kiss, to promote change, to show others how much respect you have for them, to spread smiles, to take a sip of Coca-Cola, to sigh, and to fill the world with fun. Express yourself letter by letter. Look out for our bottles with the alphabet and share your wishes, feelings, and your joy with Coca-Cola. Open for better.
NIS NIS pensioners. Avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labor and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
This is Love 101 FM, the family station, and we now return to The Rock with Bishop Herro Steve Blair.
Yes, welcome back. Oh boy. Going over Facebook as we get ready to go into the meat of the matter today. Just want to say thanks to those of you who've been writing on Facebook. And of course, those of you who take the time to write on WhatsApp. A writer writes, which is Marlene DaCosta, in regards to what I said earlier, and I don't want to just push these to the side, so I'm going to mention it. She says, "Good morning, Pastor Steve. My brother in Christ, people don't respect the lives of others. My nephew was gunned down Saturday morning in the Coronation Market. He went to buy his goods to go and sell." It just never ends. Just never ends. But we're going to pray for this nation, and we're going to work together to make a better Jamaica. Well, if there's a topic that you'd like to discuss, or even a topic that's on your mind, one that has two different sides and different sides of the fence, let us know. And if you have a spiritual passion or knowledge and background and would like to be considered as a special guest, also let us know. We're talking today about our Father. This is our topic on The Rock. Post all your comments on this, on our Facebook Live broadcast and our YouTube broadcast. It is just a place to be today and the thing to do. Our WhatsApp voice note or WhatsApp number is 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. And of course, voice notes should be no more than 30 to 45 seconds, and we'll share them throughout the program. So send them in. We're talking about fathers. We want to hear your comments about fathers, what your life has been like, how they've impacted your life, and just touch somebody's life with what you have to say. Today on The Rock, with me, Pastor Courtney Morrison. Yes, my fellow champion cook pastor. Roderick Robinson and Orlando Dillon. They'll be here with me today until noon. Orlando Dillon is an educator, media producer, and entrepreneur. He is the founder and executive director of Kids Hub Media Network, based in the USA. Additionally, he's the founding and managing partner of Iviziz Media LLC. He spent over a decade as a classroom teacher, curriculum developer, and he's the co-founder of the Christian Party promoter and DJ. That's my kind of guy. As the son of a minister, Orlando literally lived in church. He's a Christian and a husband of two sons. A husband with two sons. Well, Pastor Courtney Morrison has been married for the past 29 years to the beautiful and lovely Karen, and the union has produced 4 wonderful children. He has been the pastor of the Fellowship Tabernacle Church in Portmore for the past 12 years. He is the chairman of Mogava, Men of God Against Violence and Abuse, and CEO of the Left, Wrong, Do Right movement, current vice president of the Portmore Ministers Fraternal, lecturer at the Whole Life Bible College, marriage counselor, motivational speaker, and male advocate. Courtney Morrison was also awarded one of Jamaica's top 20 fathers in 2018 by the Jamaican government under the auspices of the Honorable Olivia Grange and the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Roderick Robinson is also joining us. He's an evangelist. He's been in ministry for over 25 years, has preached all over Jamaica and the Caribbean, is involved in prison ministry, deliverance counseling, school devotions, motivational speaking, street meetings, among other things. He's a graduate of Bethel Bible College, a member of Mogava, and of course, here's the big thing about this man. He's an ex-con, having been to prison 3 times as a teenager and then as a young adult. The last time while in prison, 1991, he accepted the Lord. He learned to read from the Bible, has a passion for winning souls, to see men get saved, and of course, he's married with 5 boys. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. This is the place to be today because we're talking about an issue that's oh no, don't do that to me. Courtney is holding up the champion title for Pastor's Cook-Off, and he's held on to that from day one. Courtney, I'm coming to your house for that. Welcome, my brothers. Welcome. Let me start with you, Courtney. And of course, you're a dear friend, and you replaced me as chairman of Magava. You guys have done so much across Jamaica. What are you seeing out there today with our fathers across this country?
I am not hearing you, Steve. You're breaking up.
Can you hear me, Courtney?
Go ahead again. You just broke up. I heard nothing you said.
What are you seeing out there today? What? Okay.
Wow.
Yes. Talk about fathers in Jamaica. What are you seeing out there?
Well, first let me just say thanks for having me on the program. You know, it's been good. What we're seeing in fathers in Jamaica, we're seeing an improvement. We're seeing a change in the narrative. We're seeing fathers heading in the correct direction. I think one of the things...
Correctional service.
No. I don't know if that's someone's mic. There we go.
Yes.
But one of the things we're seeing is that improvement, yet we're still seeing a number of things that we would wish could go in the background or just doesn't exist. You know, we have had an increase in interpersonal relationship violence, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, and mainly physical abuse from men to our women. And it's usually the male partner. So we're seeing a number of things happening, but we're seeing fathers like Roderick with 5 boys doing phenomenal things. And, you know, we're seeing men pushing the trolleys, the trams, opening the doors. Chivalry definitely is not dead. We're seeing fathers acting more the roles of the providers, the priests, the protectors than before. And so we're happy to say that there are some amazing dads. One of the things that Dr. Herbert Gale will point out to us is that men were not known as fathers in Jamaica until after emancipation, let me say it that way better. That men were known as breeders, and it is a slavery mentality to be a breeder. And so I don't even run joke and say the woman a breed anymore. I used to run that joke a lot. But since Dr. Gale presented that sort of information, it is no longer something in my vocabulary. The males were taken to the plantations to impregnate the woman, mainly to have a son, so that they could work the plantation. That breeder, and I'll use the terminology for now, was not the man with the responsibility of taking care nor providing, protecting that child. That was the plantation's owner and the mother's responsibility, and we still see remnants of that, and sometimes far more than remnants in our society of that breeder mentality, where fathers just want to know them have them youths, but in terms of the responsibility of walking out the protectorship, the providing and care and foster and nurture, that it's not a reality. Since 1962 and independence, that changed drastically. Even the numbers of the presence of fathers in households changed, dropped from 16% and moved up to 40%, and is still on the increase. So we are seeing something that's looking good. Still a lot of improvement to be made. And if I could say something about my own fathership in terms of my father, I never even realized until he died 10 years ago that my father never really stayed at home. I know he would drop us to school, pick us up from school, but I never recognized that although my father was married to someone else, he wasn't married to my mother. You know, all of us as siblings, I found all my other brothers and sisters wherever they were, Ron, Steve, Champ, everybody, found them. And we made good as siblings. I would say, hey, whatever quarrel the parents have, we're good. But there was not that true father role in my life. And I heard when you asked Sir Gail earlier, where did he get his values from? I am not sure. I just know at age 16, I decided that I would get married. I'd be the father for my children. I'd be there. At the time, I wasn't even Christian. So it wasn't a Christian foundation that even propelled me into thinking that way. And so there were not much men around me that gave that sort of value system either. I think when I became 18, got saved, and went into the church, again, there were not many men in church anyhow, and still to date are not in church. So who knows? I don't know if it was a Bill Cosby show or whatever, but you are seeing some men who portrayed good home training, good values, good etiquette, and you just say, hey, that looks good. That looks like something that we should emulate. And that's where I believe a lot of what is there for me. But we're seeing an improvement in what our fathers are doing.
Roderick, Evangelist Robinson, you know, as I listen to Pastor Morrison, I'm thinking of the many boys and children growing up today whose fathers have been shut out of their life, not just absent by choice. And I'm saying to myself at this point in time, how can we help? How do we help them to find and to understand the love of a father, especially from our knowledge of the love of God for us as a father? Your mic, unmute your mic.
All right, sorry about that.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, Jamaica. And I think I'm learning from people like Pastor Courtney Morris. But let me start with me, with something about me. For example, I came from a very shattered background in terms of my family settings. I never knew my father until I was 20 years of age.
Wow.
And when I met him, and a matter of fact, I met him against my will because I was living with some family and I wasn't behaving right. So they wanted to get me out of the homes, and them just said, listen to me, me go look for your father, make your father deal with you. You understand? It wasn't something I was happy about because I didn't grow with him. I don't know this man. But when I met him, it was like a turn off because one of the first things that he said to me, he said that they said that you are my son. What you have to say about that? And that was really something that annoys me. However, when I was much younger, growing without a father, I realized that I experienced a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And my view then was that if my father was here, or if I had a father, or have a father in my life, I wouldn't be experiencing what I'm experiencing now. You understand? So from a tender age, I vowed that I am not going to having any children out of wedlock. And I wasn't a Christian either. I wasn't a Christian, but I tell myself that when I started to get children, I'm going to stay with their mother. I'm not going to get no children out of wedlock and so forth. It so happened that years after I came to Kingston to live, got involved in crime, and my life was like a history because a lot of the things that I did was really attention that I was seeking for. I really needed somebody in my life, but I didn't know. I didn't know that I wanted somebody, but I believed that if I had the guidance, some things that happened to me wouldn't have happened. You understand? And so, went to prison and them things. Now, when I came out of prison, I met my wife and, we got married and started to get children. And when we get children, and I started to get feedback because I was trying to be the best father I can. And I was getting feedback from whole heap of people. Boy, is this wonderful father. And as I said, I heard somebody said it earlier, and I learned from men. I can call some men name. I learned from men like a guy named Bruce Fletcher and a guy named Wayne West. I mean, I used to go around them and I just used to look at how they deal with their family. And I used to say, I want that. You understand? And I emulate what I saw. You understand? And bring it back to my yard and practice some of them. But you know what I found out? I found out that in my home, my children, if they come to me and them say, Daddy, I'm hungry, and them a ball and say, Daddy, me hungry. You see, the fact that their father is there and give them this assurance, them cool, man. Then gone back out the door and play. You understand? And that in itself really said something to me.
Yes.
Now, to answer the question that you asked, I believe that some of the problem that we are facing in Jamaica, it's really a spin-over from this absentee father. I mean, some of our men, I believe that they are angry, and I believe that if they had the father figure in their lives to guide them, life probably would have been better. I can come back in my home a little. I have 5 boys, and I can tell you, them full of energy. Them energy turn up. I found out that if my wife say to them, turn off the TV, them are going to turn it off, you know. But them are going to say, Mommy, give me 3 minutes. Me soon turn it off. No, turn off the TV. Mommy, me soon turn it off. And them are do what them do before them turn it off. Now, I just said turn off the TV and just look at them 2 times and TV off. And that in my mind is saying that having a father in your life is very critical. You know, one day I was talking to my big son. As a matter of fact, I never even picked the conversation with him. I was just saying some stuff in encouraging him to do well in his education and so forth. And I said to him that, listen to me, I never get the opportunity to go to school and to do well in school. I don't know what it is like. I said, I want you to do well in school. And so I pushed them where book is concerned. And he said something to me that made me cry. He said, Daddy, you know, so you don't have a degree and you don't have a PhD, but guess what? I give you a degree and a PhD to be a good father. And that caused me to cry. You understand? Because that is the same son who look at me and tell me, say, boy, me too hard, me too tough, me too this or me too that. But at the end of the day, he, in the same breath, he said to me that I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So I just think our men, our boys need that father figure in their lives. I don't know if I answer your question.
You've answered it, and you've made us really look into a few things. I often say when I'm dealing with couples or with mothers that call me for help with their children, one of the first questions I ask is, where's the father? Because oftentimes a child starts giving trouble, and I say, well, the problem is ladies don't realize that they'll threaten the children. They'll say, turn on the TV, turn on the TV, don't turn on the TV. But a man is just going to say, turn that TV off. And it's done. Orlando Dillon, thank you for joining us also. What are you seeing out there as you do all the work that you're doing with young people? What are you seeing in terms of a change in fatherhood, especially back then?
You know, what am I seeing out here? I'm seeing some of what Evangelist Robinson is talking about and what Pastor Morrison is talking about as well, where there's a shift. There's a shift in fatherhood, and one of the things I am noticing, even with the fathers for the children in our program, for instance, is that they're a lot more involved. A lot more fathers think it's now cool to be able to cook. A lot of fathers think it's a lot more cool now to do a lot of things that they weren't comfortable with doing. I mean, when I grew up, I know my father to be the one who, yes, you speak one word and you obey. But I'm seeing a lot of change in that. I'm seeing a lot of change here, especially here in the United States, where fathers want to be a lot more involved. You know, and stuff. When I was growing up, I had mom and dad in the home, but there are certain things that you would expect daddy to do, and then other things that you would expect mommy to do. And now I think that's a little bit different. I think that's a little bit different now, where, for instance, my dad didn't cook as much, but now I'm cooking 50% of the time in the home, and I love it. It's a time of my son, who is only 10 years old. I am now teaching him how to cook, and he said to me last summer when he saw that I opened up the grill and I put the chicken or the pork or whatever on the grill. He said, "Daddy, I want you to teach me how to cook." And that's a huge part of it. My 15-year-old son is now washing up the dishes. A lot of the when I was growing up, we would sweep up the yard, but my sisters would wash up the dishes more than we would. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a shift, but I'm also seeing where a lot of fathers nowadays, are there's still the issue. I'm sorry. I'm still seeing now that there's a lot of absentee fathers. And when I say absentee, I don't necessarily mean that they are absent in the home per se, but just absent in terms of the day-to-day, what's happening with the kids. For instance, in school, like in terms of homework, those are some of the areas I think I'm seeing where us as fathers can still do a little bit of a better job on. I'm not seeing that connection. I'm seeing where chivalry, there's still some chivalry going on, and the fathers are doing a lot more now. But in terms of connecting with the kids in terms of their work from school, and so those are some of the things I'm seeing here right now.
Well, we're going to talk further because the statistics out there say that there is a large number of children without their fathers. That influence, that direction, that guidance. We'll be back on The Rock.
This Testimony Tuesday, June 15, it's on Alive 1 to 5. Join us for another show packed with good music and inspirational stories. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock at 2:15 inside the evidence. We hear from Tracy Anderson, who, widow at 37, who has been experiencing constant mind-blowing favors from God. Then at 3 p.m., we continue with part 2, Behind the Pulpit of singer-songwriter and pastor at the Center of Transformation Church in Florida, Bishop Robert McQueen. All this and more will come alive on the family station, Love 101.
Everybody wave, get something away.
I want to go on campus.
It's almost summer, and it's time for the Campus Connection summer break. Tune in to Campus Connection Tuesday, June 15 for the Rewind edition as we reminisce on the journey and say goodbye just for the summer. We also want to hear from you. Be sure to tune in and share your favorite topics from this past semester. And of course, you don't want to miss our new feature, I Chose Christ. You should too. It's Campus Connection with hosts Reverend Dr. Stevenson Samuels and Floyd Wilson and a whole heap of young people. It's Tuesday, June 15 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101.
We are carried out on campus. Come on.
And that's happening later on today. Right now, it's 11 o'clock. Back in a moment with The Rock.
Difficult job in the world. Thankfully, Parenting Jamaica has some tips to help you do a better job. Here's one. Though punishment is never pleasant, it doesn't have to create strong fear in the child's mind either. Fear is not an effective method for training a child. It may appear to be effective at first, but in the long run, it is useless for building character, or even for establishing good habits, wholesome attitudes, and positive values. Instead of always punishing, speak firmly with the child about incidents of misbehavior. A child who's secure in his or her parents' love will take them seriously when they explain why his or her behavior is not accepted. To find out more about parenting styles, visit the Parenting Jamaica blog at parentingjamaica.com or follow us on Twitter at ParentingJam.
My dad is not just a regular dad.
I'm the G, my charging.
The real big man. That's why We salute the boss.
It's not always easy to show dad how much you love him, but for this Father's Day, say thank you to your boss dad with a gift from Fontana Pharmacy. Stop by any of our 6 locations to shop from a wide variety of products or shop online at fontanapharmacy.com now through Father's Day. Fontana Pharmacy, it's all good inside.
Many of our brothers and sisters lose hope when diagnosed with HIV. Some lose their will to continue being a part of society. Others are despaired by the challenges of keeping up with their treatment. We understand. But remember, people with HIV live normal and progressive lives every day. You can too if you get back on track with your HIV treatment. Live for you, live for someone, live for something.
Get back on track, get back to life.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
And we salute the Ministry of Health and all the work they're doing. We're getting back now to The Rock on Love 101 with Bishop Herro Steve Blair.
Yes, and welcome back. Okay, bring up Courtney Morrison, Pastor Morrison, real quickly, because we want to talk about these issues and move towards the end of the program for solutions. What are some of the issues that men may say prevent them from being effective fathers? Unmute your mic.
I'm so sorry. I think one of the biggest issues that men may face and say is a problem is indeed the lack of having a father in the house in the beginning, in the first place. That there was no father figure for them to truly emulate. And that had caused serious, what we tend to call father wounds. There was no sense of affirmation for that young man. And so he grows up without the confidence of being himself and knowing what to do. He has seen, the third thing is that there's no affirmation. There was no father in the first place, the father wounds. And the third thing, he has seen some of the malpractices of other men and fathers that somehow become ingrained on the subconscious mind. And unless the conscious mind overrides some of those overarching practices, he himself finds himself in a position of committing the same act. It is so strange. I looked at Wayne Marshall's song, Glory to God, where the video that was done, it shows a man who he grows up and he abuses his wife after he drinks. And after he became drunk, he came home, there was no food there. And we actually did a case study in a program called Boss, based on spiritual substance. And that was one of the case studies showing a young man growing up, seeing his father hitting his mother. And I'm talking about domestic violence in terms of what even prevents some of our men from really assuming their rightful position, because once that begins to happen, then they tend to remove themselves from the household. That what happens now is he comes home himself, he makes a pledge, just like Roderick did and myself. We didn't see certain things happening in our household. And so even before we became Christian, I made a pledge, I'd be married my father, I would be there for my children and all of that. One wife, no other person. And so we made those promises. Yet this young man grows up, this is a case study now, unexpectedly, he goes to work. He is dismissed from his job. He comes home and his wife, he stops at the bar first and he drinks. He never normally does that. But because of being traumatized by this event that he never expected, unexpectedly, he comes home and this wonderful man who pledged to himself never to hit his wife, never to do anything out of the norm, turns and hits his wife. Research showed that in his life, what really happened is that the alcohol became an inhibitor to his conscious mind. And so that which was stored in his subconscious comes to the fore. And that which he had locked away happens. And we find men in that position. And it becomes one of the debilitating features in the life of our men. Once there's intimate partner violence as well, that man, especially if it is not he cannot understand what just happened. How did it happen? He himself can't move forward quite well, not even forgiving himself. So the lack of a father in the house, one. And two, no affirmation, so he doesn't grow in confidence. Three, he is not able to tell fully, yes, I'm in a very hot place, and it's not hell. He is not able to recognize he didn't have the sort of role model that was good. He saw some other things happening, and somehow his conscious mind is not there when he becomes angry or he drinks. And so those factors themselves, no real role model, father's wounds, lack of affirmation, he himself is a broken vessel now trying to raise a family. It blows my mind every time I go back to scripture and notice that the first ordained family of Adam and Eve, they have two siblings, Cain and Abel. Here's an ordained family. No one can dispute that this family is ordained. God put them together himself. Yet Cain kills Abel out of jealousy. And so that sibling rivalry, and the fatherhood of Adam, don't know if it became questioned. I don't know if we question it to date. And so part of one of the things that also hinders our men is that they see perfection. And society itself tells them that if something goes wrong, he's no longer a real man. I refrain from using the term who is a real man. Let's say there are 14 features that is declared makes a man a real man. What if one of those characteristics doesn't exist? How many does he have to achieve to actually fall in the category of a real father?
Well, you know, we struggle. We struggle as men when we can't provide or when situations arise. And especially when we're a father. I remember standing in my roof. Must have been September 2014 or 2004 as Hurricane Ivan blew over Cayman, August or September 2004. And I saw my roof lifting. And all I could say was, Lord, I'm seeing the light through my roof. And my children and my wife are in the closet covered up. If this roof lifts, I can't protect them. And that's all I'm thinking. I'm not thinking about anything other than I can't be the man anymore.
Yes.
And I just prayed and said, Lord, for my sake, for your glory, cover us. And the roof came back down.
Hallelujah.
I'll never forget that day. Gentlemen, y'all can feel free to come in as we talk. So don't just go by who I pick. Let me read something here. What are the factors affecting fathers' involvement in the holistic development of their children? The most common challenge given by fathers, this is done by Statin, was unemployment. 40% stating that much of their energy had to be directed towards ensuring food is on the table, school fees have to be paid. Other common factors included the need for material support, maternal support, separation from the children, work interference. So we're even seeing women keeping the fathers from the children. It must be a painful thing for some men that want to be there, Roderick. They want to be there to say, I love you, son, but the mother says, no way you're going to be around my son.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that is true. I have done a little counseling every now and then, and I've talked to people. And one of the issues that many of our men are having, and I'm talking about in the church now, are having, is that at some point in time, they feel as if they are not allowed to be the man that they are supposed to be. And I think that is something very crucial. You know, another thing I observe, you're going to hear me talk about my boys a lot on this program. You know, another thing I observe about my boys, I personally, as a father, I don't hide when I'm kissing my wife. I don't hide from my boys when I'm doing that. And one of the things I observe is that once I hug my wife and kissed her, all of them just come and gather around and hug. The smaller one would say, "Kiss me to daddy, kiss me." You understand? And I think that is very critical for women to understand that boys do enjoy seeing mother and father together. It gives an assurance. You understand? And you know, I was thinking about a scripture in the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 4 and verse 15, where Paul said, "For though we have 10,000 instructors in Christ, him say, yet not many father." So even within the church circle, I mean, we have a lot of instructors, but trust me, fathers are also critical. You know, I have a neighbor, and my neighbor have two boys, and this is now a woman who she don't have a man living in the home with her. She have to work a job. She go out early in the morning. She come back in very late at night. And one day I came in and I saw her children at the fence, and they were just there playing. So I called them and I was talking to them, and I said, "How is school?" And them said, "Not very good, sir." I said, "Why?" Them say, "We don't have any internet to go online." And right away I just called them and just put our code in their tablet so that they can have school. And those boys appreciate it so much that guess what? Once they are doing something wrong and them see me come in, them just drawing them shell. Because they are realizing that there is a male figure that is around them. And one of the things I do, you know, I establish something where I don't treat them different from how I treat my children. And that is very critical. Our boys need a man in their lives. And one of the things our men are need, right? And one of the things I'm really challenging, especially us at the church, to do, and the men in the church, listen to me. Don't just focus on your four wall. There are some young men out there who will appreciate it. Listen to me. I learn from men in the church. I heard one of the brothers say it early on.
Yes.
That the men in his church help him. I learned from the men in my church.
Yeah, Roderick, I'll jump in here because I think what you're talking about is so critical, man. It is so critical. Men need men. I think a lot of reasons why men go to bar is because other men are there and they can talk about stuff. I mean, you know, my dad struggled because my dad didn't have a father that brought him up a certain way. And so there are some expectations that I had of my dad growing up that were, you know, kind of unrealistic because my dad didn't have the muscle memory of certain things, you know. So some of the like what you're talking about, Roderick, about kissing your wife, you know, and so I didn't see that growing up. Even though, you know, I know that my mom and dad loved each other and they're still together now. I didn't see that growing up, and the what do you call it? Public display of affection was a non-issue. But I remember years ago something that was very, very powerful. I love my dad. My dad gave so much to me. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, I went up back when I really realized that my dad was the man. You know, was the real McCoy. I went up and I told him, I said, "Dad, I thank you. Thank you for all of what you did." Because when I compared daddy's experience to what he was able to give to me, trust me, it was him developing his own muscle memory. But what you talk about, Roger, in terms of being able to be an example, you know, or to reach out to other boys who might not have that. I can tell you about a few years ago when I was going to Feltab. I remember I was part of this group called TAM, Timothy Association of Men. And in that group was about 18 men, married men, single men, you know. And there was about 18 of us that Pastor Almila would take a Friday night from, you know, and he would sit down with us from 9 o'clock in the evening until about, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, just just talking, working things through. And I'm not talking about Bible stuff. We're talking about real stuff. We're talking about just talking. And the guys who were married was able to talk about what's happening within their marriages and being fathers. At the time, I was very young. I was impressionable. I was in college at the time. But that has changed a lot of the things that I do now and my principles around how I live my life today. And I have been pushing. That's why I do the program I do right now. It is to be able to give back in that way. And I think it's so important what you mentioned, Roderick, because
Orlando, I wanted to ask you, as the director of Kids Hub,
yes,
you're interacting with children. Naturally, you're seeing their different behaviors and different things. Have you been able to identify and work with these children the absence of a father or the need for an involved male figure?
I'll tell you this: a lot of the especially single parents and even parents with even households with a role model there. I can tell you, my son Roland and Lucas, sometimes when I try to pass information to them, sometimes another mentor is better at passing the same information. I'll be saying this to my sons, and they don't really go in that direction. But then I have another mentor that talk to them and they do it. And I'm just like, listen, so in the program that I run, I can tell you that, yes, there are many of the mothers who would come and say, thank you for being there. Thank you for being a mentor to my son, or thank you for being a mentor to my daughter. Because I've been trying to get them to do this thing and they would not do it. I would say, you have to have a chore that you do every week. And everybody's trying to get their chore done because they want to be in line with the program that we're doing. So I find that, and that's why I latched on to what Roger just said, because I think if we can have more role models or more men that are kind of being there for other boys or for being there for other men. I remember, I'll tell you one quick story. When I became a Christian, really started to develop a relationship with God, right? Because I grew up in the church, but when I really became a Christian and I really started to work through my issues, and try to change and be better, I realized that I had an issue when it comes on to women, and because I was a bit promiscuous in high school. And so I went to a brother of mine in the church to talk to him about this and say, hey, listen, how are you handling this? How are you dealing with this issue? How are you managing this through? And I remember I got a preachment and a teachment. I remember that I didn't get the kind of guidance I was looking for. I didn't get, listen, this is something that you have to work through, but there were other men who were real. Who said, boy, this is something that I'm really struggling with. I think for men, the reason why I say men need men is because when you can talk to another man about what you're going through as a man, as a Christian man, and you can get some practical things that you can do, it's important. Because this person who gave me a preachment and a teachment actually got someone pregnant 2 weeks after I heard. So I'm saying, if when I talk to brethren in the church now, and so listen, I'm going through this particular situation right now, and here is how I handled it, but I can tell you that one of the major things that I would latch on to right now, especially for fatherhood and for Father's Day, is if we can, yes, do what Roger says, which is provide some type of support and mentorship to other boys, but in addition to that, providing support and mentorship to other men and just being there for other men. Because sometimes we don't feel we're doing a good job, but a man can say, Virgin, I like what you're doing over here. I like how you are there for your children. I like how you pick them up. I like how you pick them up from school, and I like this. And you kind of get those affirmation from other men. So yeah, man, you're doing a good job here. I think that's important.
Orlando, if I may, Steve, one of the things that as men as I said, I hate using the term real and those things. I don't talk to a man and say man up and step up to the plate. I don't use those terminologies.
Absolutely.
I really don't, because most men are feeling emasculated when we do that, as opposed to say to them, let's do this. They don't feel empowered. One of the things we fail to recognize adequately is that men are emotional beings as well. And that when God created men, he took woman out of man, and he didn't take man's emotion from them and gave them to women. I love to tell persons I might have one or two extra emotions that the woman didn't get. Not because the man doesn't speak means he's non-emotive. And we need to be very careful of how we think that is so. That man's silence may be more deafening than anything else than you can imagine. It's strange. We would say
100%.
that when a woman becomes silent, she's deadly. But when the man becomes silent, he's not communicating. We need to stop and think about some of the things that we're saying. Far too long we have trained our boys to not express themselves, and if they express themselves, then they're being feminine. I am one of those that reject that thing, because I would take a Roderick or a Steve and put them at a domino table, and they will stay there for hours chatting, doing stuff. The truth is, men don't like to feel judged. And so when they're in the presence of playing dominoes, and these fathers who, like myself, there are times that I feel as if I've failed, and there's a season I'm going through now that really has hit me hard. But society, and even in the church, we're harsh and strong on judgment and punishment. We know little about restoring, and the Galatians 6 passage that says, if a brethren, and I'm going to substitute that word, if a father is overtaken with a fault, you which are spiritual, restore that father in the spirit of meekness. One version says gentleness, but that's not how we tend to do it in the church. His throat is slashed. I hope nobody writes me for doing that. His throat is slashed. He is ostracized and put to sit down. And when he's sitting down, there is no sense of what am I putting him through to say, okay, you have been abusive. Okay, you have created an extramarital affair. All of a sudden, all he is a bad father. You have not provided. You have not done what you ought to. And I think that is a part to go back where, when you ask the question, what are some of the things that prevents us from being good fathers? That these are some of the very issues. He's hearing all of this in his head. He's bearing such a burdensome responsibility. And to go back, that if he doesn't provide, he tends to take to the rum bar. If he doesn't, if he can't meet his wife's needs, him have a one-night fling because there's no commitment. And research has shown that's generally the way we take out. Wrong approach, but how do we teach them the right approach? We are quick to point out what's wrong, but short on getting things corrected. It even reminds me, and Roderick can help me with this, why is it that our prison system seem not to be working? We put persons in because we're big on the punishment, but short on restoration and rehabilitation and transformation. That when that man comes out, probably 8 times out of 10, he's going to go back in.
Yes.
There's no support for him. I love Roderick's story, man. Every time I go back, I listen to Roderick's story, Men need to recognize that we need to support each other. You notice what the ladies do? They're supporting each other. But here's where our problem is. There's something called a feminist group. Can you imagine if a man decides to put together a masculinist group? We're in trouble. We are chauvinistic. So we already are facing a dilemma as fathers, as men, as males, as masculine individuals. That if we are not careful, we bury ourselves. And an emasculated male, an emasculated father, a man who feels as if he's not doing what he should, is going to find it difficult to fit in. How do we help that man is a big question. And
but you see, you say, how do we help that man? when many times we men don't seek help. We don't want to go to the doctor. We don't want counseling. We don't want anything. So
And I've
we say
asked
we have
myself,
the need.
Steve, what causes that? I remember once we went to CGST, Kevin and myself, and we had about 200 men early that morning, and people wonder how we got 200 men. Free breakfast, right? We wondered, and one man got up, and this hit me like a ton of bricks. When he got up and he said, Pastor Courtney, you know why us men don't come counseling? And I said, no, I don't know. He says, because you pastors already give the woman the right before we reach the meeting, so we're not to turn up. There is a perception out there that they are already wrong.
I tell you.
They're seen as strong, and so if they go to the doctor, they are seen as weak. If they cry, they are seen as weak. And those are the things when it is not weak to seek help. It is not weak to cry.
Yes.
Those have become ingrained.
Yeah.
The little boy falls to the ground. What do we teach that little boy?
Yes.
Don't bother crying.
No, you're a
Rub
boy.
it in,
You're going to grow into
if
a
you
man.
cry, you want sissy, suck it up.
Right,
so we're teaching that boy that even if he needs medical assistance to tough it out, is to show that he's man.
Well, that's why, there's one way to look at it. You can look at it one way. On the other hand, I'm going to say to some women, the boy needs that father there to help toughen him up.
Yes.
Agreed. But not to tell him not to emote.
Right. And, I was thinking about this whole topic on emotions and the male, because oftentimes the father does not bring any emotion to the child, and the mother does not share, especially the boy child, the power of emotions. So a man goes into a marriage and into a relationship never knowing how to deal with the emotions of a woman. And that's why as fathers, we have so much that we bring to the table. I can't count the millions of times I've said I love you to my children. Before I go to the WhatsApp, I have a question I want to ask. I'm going to throw it to you guys to think about it, especially, well, all three of you, but Courtney, I know you would identify this. My wife often asks me, why so many young people, especially girls, have to call you daddy? That's a big question. But let me go to Nadine. Nadine, do we have some messages on WhatsApp? Hello?
Good morning to you and your
Okay, so let's go to the question.
Program is very,
Okay,
very,
she's
very
here.
interested, and I wish every man in Jamaica that is a father or have the intention of being a father hear this program, because so much our little boys out there yearning for a father passing their son on the street, not even looking at their sons. Just wish this message could go out there in the four corner of Jamaica for these fathers to hear. And my God, what a program.
She's enjoying the program. All right, let's hear from someone else.
Good morning, Pastor Blair, and morning to your guest. Well, I can talk about my father. I would say my father was one of the best fathers in Jamaica, to be honest. Trust me, he was always there for us. He had three of us with my mom, and one outside that wasn't biological that was my mom's first son. And trust me, he never treat him anyway, special, like he didn't belong in the family, He always provide for us, And trust me, he died 2012. Yes, it's around 9 years ago now, or 8, somewhere there. But trust me, I will never forget my father for all the sacrifices he made for us. Trust me, I'm not a father yet, but things that I've seen he have done for us, trust me, it leads the way for me to becoming good.
All right, that's from Dwayne. Let's hear from Hugh.
Yes, good morning, my brothers. Normally, as you will say that men don't want to go to doctors. Well, I did have that. I did have that sort of complaint also. I never want to go to the doctor, none at all. But to be honest with you, the reason why I go to the doctor is something real bad that happened to me, and I have to go to the doctor, end up admit, do the surgery and everything, and I just get over that, and I tell myself, well, I will visit doctor and
All
everything.
right, so
Yeah.
he got over that
Yes. Good
fear.
morning.
All right, Hope says, listening in from Canada, enjoying the program. This person says, though society pays more attention to Mother's Day, I'm not perturbed as I do not need accolades to operate in my role. I am father, husband, housebound. I bond with my family, taking care of them financially, mentally, spiritually. Pastor Morrison kindly spearhead a masculine group, make them talk. um, Angela says forgiveness and restoration is the key. And I think that is it for now.
You know, one of the things we talk about the presence of a father. The study that I've been quoting throughout the day from the Early Childhood Commission, which was done just a few years ago by um, Pauline Jemison. She says, however, positive effects are associated with the involved father, not just a father who is physically present. and and so there's such a need for the, even if you're not living with the mother, gentlemen out there, to make sure that you're involved. What are the grades the child is getting? How is their day at school? Call them daily as if you can. Let them know that you're there. What are the things you're thinking about? Are you in a relationship? They show them that you want to be involved, and not just be involved. Talk about your own life as these men have been doing, and show them the mistakes you have made as to how you can move forward. But the sad truth, Courtney, the question I mentioned earlier, so many of our young people don't have that involved father. So that when people like yourself or Roderick or Orlando or myself get involved, they say, Daddy. One girl actually carried me to her home and introduced me to her father and said to her father, here's my daddy. That was a feeling I could never get over because I felt almost embarrassed for him. But not many are involved to give them the guidance, Courtney.
Steve, it is a remarkable feeling to be called dad. I remember on my 40th birthday, that's 15 years ago, my children presented a video at church, and I cried. I don't know.
You're emotional like I am.
Well, I'm hoping we stop stigmatizing and stereotyping and talk about your emotion. All human beings are emotional.
Are emotional.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
But they presented a video, and on the video it was saying, all we are saying, Daddy, do please come home. That sent me a message that hit me like a ton of bricks. Daddy, I see you're being a good father to everybody else, but remember us too.
Yes.
That shot me. One of the worst things to feel, well, for me as a father, especially looking back at my own dad, I'm breaking up. Excuse me. Is to feel like you have failed your own family.
Yes.
It's a horrible feeling that you're not moving in the direction. And even if you're a good father, crisis can still occur in your family. That's one of the things I was trying to point out.
Yes.
With Adam and Eve. But society, and when I say society, I mean us human beings, whether in the church or outside of the church, tend to come harsh on you. We all, I tell people, Israelites must be Jamaicans. They like to throw stones. One of the first things that they want to stone. Yet the only person who should throw a stone is Jesus, because he's the only one not guilty. Your sin might not be mine, but you are throwing the stone. I remember one Sunday, I was teaching a Sunday school class. I came around and I sat with the Sunday school class, and I was talking about how the image of God can be marred, is fatherhood marred by us as fathers not doing as we ought to. And so many men don't choose God because they don't see Father in God. When I was finished, a young lady stepped out of the class and she stood about 4 feet away from me. And she looked at me and I could see the tears in her eyes. And I'm really responding to so many calling you Father. She looked at me with the tears in her eyes. And I saw that she needed to be hugged, but I decided I could not touch her. And I said to her, would you like for me to hug? And before I could finish, she ran to me, held me, and began to cry. Her story was one that tore me to pieces. Her mother would send her to the father in the country to collect money. And every time she went to the father raped her, and she told her mother. The mother believed that he's providing the finances, so you still have to go. Now this girl is being traumatized by a male figure, and the mother herself, who probably went through a similar experience, felt that she should. Now this young lady does not see father in that man she was going to, because father is not supposed to hurt. Father is not supposed to be exploitative. And this was what was happening to her. And just from a 15 minutes discussion, because the discussion did last longer than that, she looked at me. And the truth is, again, I can't declare to be perfect. My children can tell you how many times I have to apologize, how many times I've been wrong. I've had bouts of anger.
Yes.
And so that is being genuine and vulnerable. But society have us as a place as men, and father especially, that we are afraid to be vulnerable and to even say we need help. When there are so many looking and calling us daddy, that if our foot should slip, what effect it's going to have on that child or those who are calling us fathers, because they're seeing in us qualities that they don't see at home. And sometimes the Jamaican saying becomes true, see me and come live with me, are two different things, because your own child at home is saying, I'm not seeing the same quality as how you're treating me. Daddy, I'm jealous. And so we now have to, as men, as fathers, have to ensure that we are putting God out there. And I'm preaching all of this, and I'm not perfect. I've done some things that I'm not happy about, but it feels horrible when you recognize you're wrong and you feel as if you have failed. And I'm saying to fathers out there, not because you feel as if you have not done all that you are, doesn't mean you're not a good father. You might not be a great father, but you're a good father aspiring to the greatness that lives in you.
And there's time to still do more.
Exactly.
There's still time to move forward.
And we're asking persons to give us a chance to do it.
But we should say, gentlemen, I don't know Roderick's age or Orlando's age, but you're 2 or 3 years older than me. But
there's powder in your beard.
This comes from my mother's side of the family, because I have twice as much as my father. But thinking about this whole thing, fathers are so powerful in the lives of people, of our people. The problem, though, is that we don't realize as men, especially when we get to this 50 mark, and we start thinking about the failures, the impending future, and we start thinking about everything, all of a sudden we start blaming ourselves. When, at one point in time, I don't think I've mentioned on this program, and I'm going to be bold enough to mention it today, that I've been through a divorce. My children, 9 were taken back to Cayman, then moved to England. It was very painful for me. And at one time, 100 times I've tried to move back to Cayman. I've tried to go back there. And about 3 years ago, my father looks at me and goes, "So you're going to try to rescue the situation now?" He says, "You're going to try to rescue the situation now? Your children are adults at this stage, making their own decisions, going to their own places. Just make sure you're there. Make sure you are available." And it hurt when he said that because I want to be there. I want to right all the wrongs. I want to go back over the last 9 years. But at the end of the day, I just remember those words. Make sure you're there.
Yeah.
You can't change everything now. And that's something Orlando and Roderick that we as men have to look at. Because as we hear Courtney saying, we're definitely reflecting and asking ourselves, have I failed? When now we can look towards the future.
Yeah.
Yes. I just want to come in right here. Because sometimes as a father or as men doing our role as a father, I think sometimes many of us, we are not doing it for anybody to recognize us. But I am of the view that when you represent your home well, people on the outside are going to see. And you asked the question earlier on, why is it that so many people love to call you father? And what came to my mind is the scripture in Corinthians that I quoted just a while ago, that there are 10,000 of instructors, but not many fathers.
Yes.
And when I think about those two words, instructors and fathers, I realize that there are things that instructors do and there are things that fathers do. So what an instructor do may not reflect the image of a father. You understand? The father, on the other hand, he probably is not the best talker, he's not the person who gives good instruction, but guess what? He loves his family and he's there for his family, and because he's there for his family, he represents well. I remember I said Courtney show up something a while ago that I want to put up on the screen. Now, you remember this, Courtney, right? Yes. And so some years ago,
I have one of those too.
You have one of those, right? So I got this plaque from the Ministry of Culture and Gender Affairs. One Father's Day.
Hey, Roderick, they're actually taking nominations now. I should probably nominate Steve Herro there.
Right. Yeah, man. But I was not convinced that I was playing my role as the father that I really want to become.
Yes.
But just when I got this plaque, Pastor Steve, when I got this plaque, it really said something to me.
Yeah.
It said a lot to me. It said that, listen to me, sometimes you think you are not doing anything, but people on the outside are noticing. And sometimes the people on the outside who are noticing what you are doing in the home, they are the ones who sometimes have missing links in their lives, wishing that their father was there and so forth. And then they are the people who at some point are going to call you father. I have so many people call me father that my children think that they and literally think that they have a lot of brothers and sisters. I'm telling you, there's a young lady right now where my boys think that she's their biological sister.
What your wife think?
Well, this is something, and very good question, Pastor Courtney, because you say this is the other thing, You say when a man is playing his role as a man, he needs that internal support.
Yes.
And you say if he's not getting that internal support from his wife, I'm going to tell you that he's not going to be functionable. He's not going to be the man that he's supposed to be, because guess what? He's not getting the support. And I can tell you, that's one of the things I think. Listen to me, I have a wife that I love dearly. Somebody said to me a few days ago, said, boy, your wife enhances you. I said, good. Wonderful. That's what it was meant to be. Because when you look at what God said, he said that he's giving the man a helpmate. Never say M-E-A-T, you know. Him say M-E-E-T, which means that she meet you halfway, and in so doing, it creates a perfect home. And I'm just
I've been
saying,
so caught up in the discussion that I've not even mentioned that the phone lines have been open. The phone lines 968-8327-968-8328. That's 968-8327-968-8328. We do have some more messages on Facebook and WhatsApp. On Facebook, we saw the message earlier where Elsinite says, when the fathers lost themselves out of the family, it takes a toll on the children because there are more questions than answers. It's time for the men to rise up and take the responsibility as God created them to be the head of the home. Before we go to WhatsApp, here's what I see. Lisa Han, my good friend, saying, I think we need to be taught parenting as some men don't know how to be parents. Well, I fully believe, gentlemen, that our schools need some life skills programs, both in primary and high school, and that there's a full program set out that gives us guidance in terms of parenting, marriage, having children, dealing with money, dealing with taxes, dealing with the law, because also anger management and conflict resolution. If I was the leader of this country, that would be in every school system, because that would be the biggest thing outside of church that would transform Jamaica. Okay, Nadine, what do you have on WhatsApp? Okay, so just reminding our panelists, Orlando Dillon, Evangelist Roderick Robinson, and Pastor Courtney Morrison. And we get from WhatsApp, Nadine.
Right. Yes. Okay, so this person said, oh, all right, let's jump here. Sister Petrona.
Good morning. Good morning. My take is I think men that who are in a position can help, can mentor one boy or one man. And if you can do two, you do it. If you can do three, if you can do all six, you do it. But I think people who in a position can do it, can mentor one or two man or boy, because they need it. God would love it. God will love it, because many people.
I think that's a good idea.
Children are men.
Let's jump over to this call. There's a caller on the phone. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Yes, morning. Wonderful discussion going on. Here, my brethren, Roderick and Courtney.
Yes, Mr. Agent.
Yes, I am particularly moved, and I have faith in the men in this country, men in the church, because when you see men who were not fathered particularly very well, but in both cases, Roderick and Courtney, I believe Courtney also, who from before they were Christians, was resolute in that they will be good fathers and husbands. So it does point out to me that there is hope. And I just want to continue to encourage the gentlemen on the forum here that you are definitely encouraging me. Like Courtney, sometimes I feel that, boy, I have made so many blunders as a father. But you are reminding me this morning that it is okay. It is okay to recognize your weaknesses and just wheel and come again. You know, today is a new day. Whatever may have gone before, it has already gone. But you have today to make a difference. And that's what the encouragement I want to give to the men. Let's start today. Today is a new day.
Yes.
Thanks, sir. I feel encouraged just by you saying that. That was really very encouraging. Bless you.
Yeah, we can take another call. We have 8 minutes, and we have 3 wonderful guests. Gentlemen.
Yes, we have some more. I'm sorry, we have some more voice notes coming in. Thank you, caller. All right.
Hi panel, good good program. I'm here listening and I just thank God for you men of God that is standing up as man. But I think the fathers who father these later days men didn't get that kind of teaching, so it's hard that they didn't have anything to pass on to this generation, and so it kind of difficult. But as you say, as a church, we have to dig more in the word and help, and the fathers have to seek after wisdom, after the word of God, for the word to help them to be better fathers to their children. Thank you for the program.
Good morning to the panelists, Reverend Blair, Courtney Morrison, and Evangelist Roderick. My suggestion is that, as Reverend Morrison said, we need to get together a masculine group, because one of the things we can do as younger ministers, we can have what is called a mentorship group right across the island of Jamaica. And I think that will help not only fathers, but it will help the nation as a whole. Bless you, gentlemen. I've been enjoying the talk about father, about all of what you have said, and bless you, bless you, bless you. Fortis, Brother
I
Morrison,
I don't understand.
Fortis.
What
Steve.
I don't
Back
understand.
up the tape, back up the tape and take that off.
All right, hold on.
Good morning to you, gentlemen. First time calling on your program. I listen to your program every Tuesday morning about father figure. I didn't grow up with a father, but when I come of age and I take the Lord, my father didn't have bad state and I'd have to go and take him and live with him for 10 years. And it took me a while to really grasp him as a father, to really feel him as a father. Really have to go to God and talk to God, ask God, say, God, you have to do something for me. You have to teach me how to make me love my father and know that he is my father and feel him. And that barrier will break down and we'll look at him and hug him and say, Papa, love you now, you're my father. I'm near your daughter. And we build a band from there and I lead him to Christ. Yeah, he accept Christ. He died about 3 years ago in my hand, yeah. And I felt good and free knowing that we make it up before my eye close. So it's hard when you don't go with a father and just pick up in your life like that. It's hard to build a band. You have to really have Christ with you. You have to really build that band. This is my take on that. Blessed morning.
All right, that's it for now.
Okay. We're just minutes away from wrapping up, but giving each gentleman maybe 2 minutes to wrap. I do want to mention before we give you your closing statements, gentlemen, that we've been really blessed with a Father God.
Amen.
One who's always with us, never leaves, never forsakes. Lets us learn from our mistakes. Just doesn't just push us aside because we've done something wrong. Gives us love that covers a multitude of sins. But at the same time, so many out there today are struggling, still never met their father, don't have their father's name on their birth certificate. So many things happening across this country. And I guess the way I'll close today is by asking you to speak to our church. The churches have been doing their part, but I don't find out that our men's fellowships in many churches are growing, but the bars are increasing. So, gentlemen, I give you a minute each to talk to fathers and to talk to our nation.
All right. What I want to say to fathers is to have fun with your children. I have a boy. I have some boys here, and especially my big son. One of the things I try to do is to have fun with him. We watch wrestling is one of my favorite game, and it's his favorite game. And so we designate Monday night and Friday night. We just sit down and watch wrestling, and after we watch wrestling, we wrestle too. You want to see me and them, I wrestle. But I remember when I'm in my 50s, but I'm a young father. I remember when my son was turning 18, I started to think of some stuff that he possibly might end up doing. And one of the things that I could think about is drinking. So you know what I did? And he's in the room with me right now. You know what I did? I decided that I'm going to have a drink with him. So I just take him out and buy a beer, and him get him beer, and me get my beer, and we drink beer, and me say to him, say, listen to Daniel. Drinking can be good, but it can be destructive. And we just have a nice little talk and say, listen to me, nothing wrong if you drink a little one beer, but don't get addicted. Do not allow yourself to be destroyed by alcohol. Me just have the drinks there with him and just reason with him, and him appreciate it so much, knowing that boy, his daddy was guiding him in that way.
Good guidance, Daddy. Courtney.
So what we are saying to men, have fun with your children. Talk to them about stuff that you would like them to, to do.
You're my Courtney.
Thank you. The struggle is real, fathers. The struggle is real. We face an uphill task, but we are called to do, and we are instructed to walk in that obedience. The struggle is real, but so is God. And so as we look at what is out there for us to do, to walk in his footsteps, to love our children, to love our wife, to love our family, and to be called to whatever ministry God has called us to, or whatever profession we're called to, that excellence is always the mark of a good testimony. And so even when we see, or if we see ourselves falling short, just remember that he has us in the palm of his hands. He will keep us there and lift us up. We can do it. Let's do it, men. Let's do it, fathers. We can.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us today. Orlando has moved on, but just thank you for joining us. I hope we've impacted some hearts, some lives, some minds, encouraging our fathers, take that step, get involved, be a part of the lives of your children. Encouraging mothers who have restrained their children from being around the fathers. Don't let your problems with the father stop that child from knowing and enjoying that father. I pray today for Jamaica land we love. I pray that this country will grow in wisdom, and that as we grow in wisdom, the men of our country will recognize the role that we play in developing the lives of those who will be a part of the future of Jamaica. I pray that come this Father's Day, the Lord will put in the hearts and minds of every Jamaican the strength of a father. If that father is present, if that father is... I pray that this will be a wonderful week for all of you. Learn to forgive that absent father. Give him your love. Learn to love that absent child. I'm Steve Blair. This is The Rock. Thank you to Kathy Gale, our producer. Thank you to Nadine for her work in the studio. And thank you for joining us today as we looked at fathers and fatherhood across Jamaica. Give me a call. If you need me to give you some direction, put you towards Pastor Morrison, Evangelist Roderick, or Orlando, 876-295-9141. That's 876-295-9141. There is hope. God bless you.